Now then, how are they going to fight through this podcast? Welcome everyone to Super Audio Robo Podcast Z. I'm Ark, that's Neff, and this is the show where we recommend you the finest mecha content for your cultural and artistic development. Still got it.
Yeah, we're still good, even after that long break we had. Well, I mean, it won't be a long break for you people listening, but you know.
You all had your different break after Gal Gaigar. This was, this was a separate one for us. But we're back, coming in hot with a show from the 70s. We're going way back in the past on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so why don't you tell us about our show today, Zambot 3?
Yes. All right, well, we'll tell you everything you need to know about Muteki Chojin, Zambot 3. The synopsis goes like this. In the depths of space, the planet Beal was destroyed by an evil entity known as the Gaizok. The only survivors of the catastrophe fled to Earth and then integrated into human society. Now, decades after that tragedy, the Gaizok has found its way to Earth to begin the slaughter again. The descendants of Beal, the Jin family, have prepared for this moment by restoring 3 ships and 3 robots, the latter of which can combine into the invincible Superman called Zambot 3. Though, as the Jin family will discover, they will have to withstand not just the forces of Gaizok, but public resentment from those around them for involving the Earth in their fight.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those.
It is one of those.
You ever wanted to see, like, untold destruction at the hand of giant robot fights and not just brush it off, like, or treat it as a laugh?
This show is for you because it sure does that. I don't know if this is the first show to do that or not, or first Super Robot show.
I feel like it has to.
Yeah.
Like even with all the depraved stuff that could happen in Go Nagai manga, I always feel like environmental damage and destruction is usually something that never gets, like, focused on quite like this anime did.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's a little extra context going into this. With a lot of the recommendations that we put together for all the episodes that we're doing for this podcast, like, there are some where, kind of in the lead up to recording certain episodes like this one, I had not actually watched all the way through Zambot 3. I had been building back up to getting through this, and I will say, there was definitely a point that I think, when I was watching it, and thought, when I finish this, I'm going to have to break the news to Neff that we are still going to talk about and recommend this, but on the stipulation that it's recommended if you're a psycho.
Oh boy. Yeah,
fortunately, I don't have to append that at the end of this for very good reason, as you'll find. But it's actually quite good. But oh boy, it is a strange and fascinating show from the 70s, and in an era that is often pretty much just kind of ignored in the grand scheme of, like, the history of super robots by a lot of anime viewers, and I find that to generally be a huge shame.
Yeah, so I guess a little history of mine with this show is back in the day when we had internet forums. Remember those?
Mm-hmm.
There was one guy who would always talk about Zambot 3. He'd talk about it in these hushed tones, making it seem like one of the best shows ever created that's not getting subbed. So I was like, sure, when the show sits down, I'll see what all the hubbub is about, why this one guy is making such a big deal about it. And I did. And I think I had the exact same reaction you did. Because I was like, why would you ever recommend a human being this show? I mean, we are, but you know.
Well, yes.
Yes.
Well, at least I can feel confident that I can resolve we can recommend this if you're a psycho qualifier to at least only one other anime that we'll get to way later, and we're just gonna keep teasing you about it without saying what it is.
Yeah, you'll.
But we're not talking about that other anime. We're talking about Zambot 3, and we might as well get into the prehistory next. Give a bit of background as to what sicko possibly came up with this one.
Oh yeah, please tell us the prehistory and who came up with this show.
So, Zambot 3. was a super robot anime by the, at the time, fairly new anime studio Sunrise during the super robot boom of the 70s. You know, post Mazinger, but like not too far after that. Every big studio was wanting to get in on having their own giant robot that everyone would want to watch every week and buy toys of at the same time. And it was directed by famous anime creator Yoshiyuki Tomino. Oh yeah, it's that Tomino. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, this is also way before Gundam, too.
About 2 years. It's still fairly close, but yes, it being before his most seminal work is important to highlight because, I mean, this show is not the thing that would make him famous.
No.
But you can see a lot of, like, his particular sensibilities that it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of an important step in his creative career, all things considered.
These are merely the building blocks of Tomino. Something he would, I wouldn't say perfect, but he would hone in a terrifying way for Victory Gundam, where he takes all the theme, all the fucked up things that happen in this show, and make them even more fucked up.
Yeah, which is that's quite a feat.
Yes. But keep going. Let's keep going.
Yes, but before even getting that far into the future with Victory Gundam, and even before making Zambot 3, Tomino's career, saw him joining Sunrise in the mid-70s, and his actual first work on anything to do with giant robots was the seminal 70s anime Brave Riding. Like, it's one of those things where, like, it tends to be listed as like a show that was directed by him, but technically it was more like he was director of the show's first 25 episodes, with the remaining 25 being directed by Tadao Nagahama. But regardless, I mean, like, it was still in the context of Sunrise as a studio, it was still a very important show for them, as that was kind of like their first major like entry into like the super robot genre, and a pretty big deal too when you consider that it was the first transforming super robot. It was the first one that actually like was a robot that could turn it, from its regular robot form to like a completely different shape, like fairly seamlessly. Not as seamlessly as Shoji Kawamori would obviously perfect it when we got Macross in the 80s, but whatever, still stepping stones. That's kind of the important thing to remember with a lot of these 70s robots. They are big stepping stones.
Yeah.
And even Tomino and Nagahama working on this show, it's like those two together is an interesting point to highlight. Just to give further context to what the landscape of super robots was going to look like in the late 70s, because following the completion of Raiden, Nagahama was like not an employee of Sunrise at the end of the day. Like the two split off, and Nagahama would go on to basically create like his own influential work in the super robot genre during this time period. Specifically, the creation of Combattler V, and by extension, the Robot Romance trilogy, which is like its own can of worms as far as like super robots. But like as a highlight for what Combattler V is about, you could basically look at it as if not the first, it's still close to around the same time when Super Sentai finally adopted the idea of your Super Sentai team has like their own combining giant robot that is always made up of 5 machines.
Yeah.
Because Combattler V followed the same idea, and unsurprisingly, both are owned by Toei.
Mm-hmm.
They had a pretty huge reach on just about every facet of like super influential all ages like media in Japan. When you think about it, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, they had a firm grasp around it.
But for Tomino, with him being left at Sunrise, Zambot 3 you could say was the first robot anime he would work on where it was fully in his creative control, like directing it the whole way through. And yeah, that this is where it gets into that area of that makes sense, because Zambot 3 clearly reflects more of his own personal ideas and like concepts that he wanted to see explored in robot anime. Which is the nice way of putting it. The less formal way of putting it is that Zambot 3 for a 1977 anime was kind of fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, previous works in the genre, like, they were no strangers to like exploring the idea of like having character-driven dramas at the center of what is essentially giant robot pro wrestling matches every single week. But Tomino was definitely wanting to like push elements further by highlighting that there are devastating consequences to having giant robots fighting kaiju every week, because where are they going to fight? And what is going to happen when they fuck things up? And you see that happen a lot in Zambot 3. There's so much destruction, more than any of us recall there ever being in any 70s robot anime, even up to this point.
Oh, it is by far so much more than any other show at the time. And so some of you out there probably know Tomino by his nickname, Em All Tomino. This is where I believe this is where it originated from. It all came from Zambot 3.
Yep, because there is so much destruction and so much character deaths. Of a phrase that I say that and thinking about what goes on in Ideon or Zeta of Gundam or Victory Gundam, and it's like, these are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll get to. This is just the practice round. Zambot 3 is the practice round.
This is basically like the first step of Tomino basically saying, how far can I push things with, because I know for a damn fact that the execs at this studio don't actually watch the products that they produce.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. He got away with a bunch of stupid fucking names in the Gundam series that no one objected to.
Oh, my favorite story is, sorry, this is going to be a slight tangent, but for Victory Gundam, there's this really stupid looking giant bike battleship thing, and he submitted that thinking there's no way anybody is going to say yes to this, and they did. They were like, yeah, that's fine. Let's make it for the show. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, sure, whatever. We can make a Gunpla of that, I think. May not even accept that? I don't know. It's their problem.
It's their problem.
Still, despite the darker tone of this show, with scenes like so absolutely shocking, you would think that they could only have existed in the Go Nagai manga of this time period. Like, it's important to remember, like, this anime is fairly dark, but could not be any darker that it is, because it was still beholden to a lot of broadcasting standards and merchandising pull that like the genre had been accustomed to at this point. And okay, yes, and thank you, Nev, for sharing this picture with me, because I am now going to make sure that I fit this into the video version of the episode. You are all welcome, everyone.
You're welcome, everyone. Anyways, go on.
Yes, this was still a 70s robot anime. Sunrise basically had to have merchandise sponsorships attached to this to whatever they were making, because that was the most surefire way to get like funding for the project to begin with. And it's the thing that persisted even all the way through Gundam, which infamously was the thing that kind of like held back a lot of the show and like caused, contributed to a lot of its initial like lack of popularity before they eventually course corrected when the show was finished. But they didn't really, but I mean, like, Zambot 3 obviously had a different problem entirely, where it was still truly a super robot show, and they had Clover, the toy company, sponsoring it and everything, but fucking how is a show that is being this goddamn heavy ever going to last as long as any of the heavy hitters, without depressing everyone? Yeah,
I can't imagine. This does not feel like a show that would pop off back in the day.
And it didn't. It's the sort of thing where, like, only because of people looking back on it in retrospect, either because of its own merits or because people realized that Tomino worked on it, or some mix of both. Regardless, Zambot 3 only went on for about 23 episodes, starting from October 8th, 1977, and ending on March 25th, 1978. One of the shortest run times for any robot anime during this time period, which is outside the norm, because the expectation was your show was successful if you could hang around for at least an entire year.
On the one hand, I guess that's a shame, but on the other, can you imagine a 50-episode Zambot 3?
Yeah. I mean, you could probably already wonder what that possibly could have been. Just watch Zeta Gundam.
Yeah, there you go. It's Zeta Gundam. Oh, boy.
I say that knowing full well I still need to get to that. But anyway, that's as much of the history that we could really like dig up about Zambot 3. Again, a lot of the background details that you could get about anime from the 70s, not as in-depth as like some of the more popular heavy hitters from decades after. But this, I'd say, gets at what sort of thought process went into making a show like this and kind of how it fit into the greater cultural like context of super robots, and especially how something like this could have possibly found its way into Super Robot Wars decades later and be what would be the best word for it? Sanitized, I guess.
Sanding off the edges a little, making it less depressing.
Yeah, there you go. Any of those phrases, I think those work.
You don't see much of people hating on Zambot 3 in the Super Robot War games, I can tell you that.
I mean, it turns out when you have like a bunch of other robot pilots there is like that are able to withstand so much more and are clearly fully grown adults a lot of the time. Yeah, those kids need them.
Yeah, they do.
So let's actually get into the mecha and the characters of this show. This allegedly depressing and fucked up 70s robot anime. What could they possibly have? Well, they do have giant robots, and they are still designed entirely with the idea of like, hey, you want a toy of this thing, right?
Yeah, they're still very toyetic. They're still here to be for you to buy models of them.
Yep, especially because again, this is post Brave Writing and like not just at Sunrise, but even like Toei as well, because again, Nagahama went over there to start the Robot Romance trilogy. This is firmly in the late 70s era of super robot color palettes, where you gotta have your navy blues and red and yellow accents, and like those are the colors. You cannot get away with anything else unless you're Go Nagai and Ken Ishikawa. Those are the rules.
Oh god, I never realized how much of them had red accents on them. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. It makes me a bit more sympathetic to the fact that like I can see why some people probably gloss over a lot of 70s super robots and think that they all look kind of the same and indistinct, because the colors do kind of cause that. Yeah, I think. Mm-hmm. But Zambot 3 itself is an interesting super robot, because with this being in the mid to late 70s, we're not just post Brave Writing in the context of Sunrise, but we're post Getter Robo. We have the idea of robots that are a combination of smaller robots or machines, and hence the reason it's called Zambot 3, because it is a formation of three piloted machines. The Zambot Ace, which technically can transform into a jet type of machine called I'm forgetting the what was it called again? I it always feels so interchangeable.
Yeah, it's
Zambot. The Zambot, that's what it is.
Zambot, that's it. Yes, it is the Zambot.
Because the remaining two machines do not have their own like transformation mechanisms, so they're just called Zambol and Zambase, which kind of makes you realize, gee, for as much as this is a robot that is made up of three machines, they get even less equal treatment compared to how Get a Robo did.
Yeah. Also, I guess a small thing about like the Zambot Ace is that for a giant robot, its face is pretty expressive. It makes a whole range of emotions.
Yeah, this as well as its predecessor Raiden, and even its successor Daitarn 3 is like, yeah, you're looking at all like these faces, and even though it tries to make you think that it's like, oh yeah, the pilot is speaking through them, except the mouths, they don't have any lip syncs to them, is the weird thing. So you just get this weird effect of like you were looking at like the progenitors to what would be like the face of Transformers.
Pretty much, yeah. It has a bit of a Transformer feeling to it.
Yeah, and it's no wonder that Transformers basically solidified that style of robot face as being like that series, and then later on the Brave series, because they got the idea of like, hold on, if it's an expressive face, we should have it actually emote and talk in time with whatever dialogue is happening so that they look like characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least when the three of these machines combine, you get the titular Zambot 3. it loses the expressive like mouth on its face and gets like a little face guard, but also has most notably a crescent moon kind of like emblem on the top of its helmet. It's a very much like a samurai armor motif that it has with its helmet, and that's kind of like I'd say that's the furthest it goes with a lot of like its samurai motifs. Its weapons are very like feudal as well, because it has like a pair of sai that it will pull out and like do combos with, as well as being able to combine them in different ways. One of them being like a double-sided, like a double-bladed spear, or staff, as well as like just just turning it into a trident. So yeah, that's also cool. They have like this sai weapon that has 2 additional forms, so it further like reinforces the 3 motif of the robot. And when you watch Zambot 3, you obviously gotta remember this is gonna have its own special attacks and its own finishing move, so you'll become very, very intimately familiar with the Zambot 3's moon attack, shooting a crescent moon-shaped beam of energy straight from its helmet that is a surefire killing blow. And it's got its own arm poses and everything, because that's what a hero does. Although hero in air quotes for half of the series.
Giant air quotes on hero.
Do you feel like a hero, Kape?
Sad now.
Eventually he will, but moving on. That's the main robot, but obviously the robot has to have a base of operations where it could be stored until time goes out to battle. Well, that's where the King Beal comes in, which, following the same 3 motif as Zambot, is actually a combination of 3 separate ships that had carried the descendants of Planet Beal, like, or, well, not that it's, like their predecessors, rather, like when they escaped from Planet Beal, landed on Earth, and then basically, like, integrated themselves into Japanese society. Like, they had hidden the ships away, but, the knowledge of their existence still remained, so, like, that's where the descendants came in to, like, basically uncover and unearth the ships, because, they consider that part of their family legacy.
Yeah.
And also use that as, like, like their main base of operations when it becomes clear, oh shit, the Gaizok are back, we need to fight them.
Yeah.
Pretty much like, just like the main characters and their entire extended family are all just going to live on these ships for the entire being, whether they are like in their separate forms or when they are combined into the King Beal, which you can very clearly see when it's going through its combination. It's like you realize when you watch this after having seen so many other anime of like where robots or ships and stuff combined, that's like you've been spoiled by the genius of 80s combination and transformation mechanisms, where it is a lot more seamless and like, I guess, like sensible, and not to just we have just taken the invisible hands of God to pull apart the pieces and rearrange them.
Yeah, we haven't thought about how they actually combine yet, so just fuck it, just make them combine, just mash them together. That's good enough.
Fuck it, it looks cool, and kids will pester their parents to buy them as a present for this year.
Yeah, so who cares? Just do that shit anyways.
That said, I can't imagine that there were many toys potentially made of the Mecha Boosts, our monsters of the week that appear constantly throughout Zambot 3. Least of all because we have an appreciation for the inherent silliness of a lot of these early ideas that appeared in 70s robot anime. But Mecha Boosts, I feel like they are best described, like how we feel about them, based on the entire building process that is shown to us in the anime, where it is essentially just a garbage pile that is dumped onto a podium and then like held together by tubing, like, and wiring and duct tape to create the vague shape of a humanoid or animalistic robot, and that is your Mecha Boosts. You're not going to get anything that kind of sticks out in any memorable way compared to Dr. Hell's Kikaiju, let's just say. Yeah,
I feel like this really shows the priorities that they had with this show, where they're less, they're less like focused on the actual mecha designs and more about their ideas, the whole like kaiju battle and destruction and everything.
That's it though. I did even so I do kind of appreciate like when they show like the process of how a Mecha Boost is made. I did have like a good laugh of it because it's like
it was good.
Yeah, this is the right kind of goofy, all things considered.
Yeah,
like there are so many ways that you could like show the creation process for like how you create like your special monster that is going to terrorize the city for this week's episode. You know, so it's like, how do you do it? Yeah, it's just garbage. Fucking kill everyone.
Just kill everyone.
So yeah, that's like our main categories of mecha. Not a whole lot of them, but what we do have a lot of are characters.
There's so
human
many
characters.
Yeah.
And human-ish in the case of one.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to start with our hero, Kappei Jin, the pilot of Zambot Ace, and pretty much the main one who was in charge of Zambot 3 when they all combine, because his cousins are also like the pilots of Zambot and Zambase, Uchida and Keiko respectively. Mm-hmm. And to kind of get back to how like the priority showed that they were not as concerned of trying to get as much equal representation the same way that like the forms of Getter Robo does. And even then, Getter 3 gets so little even by default, but it's basically tradition. Like there's a reason I have a category for just Kappei Jin, because he is the one that gets like the overwhelming bulk of character development, even compared to his cousins.
Yeah, there is a way bigger focus. Like there are episodes that focus on his cousins, but he gets the majority of it.
And there is a good reason why, because we have a very simple, easily understandable way to describe him. He's a fucking brat.
Oh yeah, he's a giant brat. Like his cousins seem to be more like mission, they're more about the mission and their duty and everything. And Kappei is just kind of fucking around a lot of the time.
Yeah, he's a very hot-headed kid. He's constantly getting into like fights with a local gang with like the idea of basically proving his superiority. Casually insults his friends and family as like his idea of like endearment, even though I don't think they really take kindly to it.
No. And also, Kappei Jin is voiced by the voice of Doraemon.
Oh my god, I am never unhearing this now.
Now I've given you this, so now you can't unhear it anymore. I believe this is one of her few roles that are not Doraemon.
That is, what a fucking shock.
Yeah.
Of all the things I looked up on this anime, I never once bothered to look at the voice actors for these characters and put two and two together that the fucking bratty child soldier is Doraemon.
Yeah.
You're
welcome.
Oh man, you really one-upped me right there.
Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it. I had that once I found that out, I kept that in my pocket for a moment like this. Because I knew
you pulled it out at the right fucking time.
And also for you people who play Danganronpa, it's also Monokuma. But yes.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess that was not too much of a stretch. Danganronpa got its own, like, pile of fucked up shit going on.
Oh, yeah, it does. How do you go from Doraemon to this as, like, your 3 roles?
So the big revelation of Kappei's voice actor got me looking deeper into it, as I wanted to credit the actress's name proper, and that was Nobuyo Oyama. She did indeed voice Kappei, and Doraemon, and Monokuma, and those 3 were listed in that order specifically because I somehow assumed she was the voice of Doraemon from the character's inception, but she only got the role in 1979 and continued to voice the character all the way to 2005. Doraemon has had many voices throughout its existence, but it's no wonder that Oyama specifically has been primarily remembered as Doraemon more than anyone else. So to go from voicing a bratty super robot pilot to a beloved anime mascot a year later is quite the accomplishment. Rest in peace, Nobuya Oyama. And now back to the show. And even then, for as much as we like gotta like call out Kappei for being a brat, it also doubles as like he is the main character because naturally he's the one that has to get the most development, so that as you would be expected to for any good story, showed him developing into someone that is no longer just the exact same character that they start out as.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Zambot 3 would have endeared to the same degree that it has for everyone if Kappei in episode 1 was the only one left, was exactly the same when he is Kappei at the end of episode 23.
Yeah,
he has some growing to do.
This is a show where the main character actually kind of grows and becomes, I guess, more of a hero, more of a better person at least.
He at least has a better understanding of like the situation he is in and like how his actions contributed to that, both good and bad.
Yeah, because
Which is kind of important considering that I'm pretty sure like he is very much like at least a late elementary schooler in this. Like this is like one of the younger protagonists that you could get in a super robot anime. Most of them tend to lean towards like high school students, if not like young adults, like university age. But Kappei is still in school and way younger than everyone else, which is what contributes to a lot of the fucked upness about Zambot 3 and why it's like we're not saying child soldier as a joke.
No, once again, we're bringing things back to Gundam. What does Gundam have? Child soldiers. So this is just, once again, Tomino having an idea and then building it up in another thing, another show he worked on.
Even King Beal, you can look at that as far as like the ship of like of not at all qualified personnel to kind of like fight in the war against invaders being entirely staffed by Kappei's whole extended family. Like you have the Jin family, as well as, I mean, like his cousins, like their last names aren't Jin for obvious reasons because they're like three separate like generations. Like the grandfather though that kind of unites everyone is Heizamon Kamikita. So like that's like kind of like the family name that's like kind of at the top of the family tree of like the immigrants from Beale to Earth. And I say immigrants, Zambot 3 doesn't necessarily use the term, but when you consider that we made the mention of public resentment towards Zambot 3,
oh yeah,
I thought about it for a hot minute. I could totally see it if Tomino was trying to get at a somewhat more subtle allusion to like anti-immigration kind of like sentiments, with like how people like when something bad or unfortunate happens, rather than blaming the actual cause, they look at what is the easiest target that is closest to them. Because the Jin family, like all of them basically come under fire from this as soon as it is revealed, like, yeah, the Gaizok are attacking Earth. We're actually descendants of people from a planet that they destroyed. So everyone just kind of defaults to, then it's your fault they're here, fuckers. Get off our planet.
Yeah, and knowing Tomino, like, we don't have confirmation one way or another, but from what he said in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a little intentional.
Like, his politics and sense of beliefs are very, very clear that it's not too much of a stretch to kind of see where, like, this idea of, you know, the people that our heroes are tasked with saving, like, are blaming them for the problems, like, where that possibly comes from.
Yeah.
And a lot of that early resentment is especially pushed by, I'm going to say, like, one of our other main characters, even though he never pilots a robot, and that is Kozuki.
Yeah, Kozuki is a character who is just as important as Kappei and gets as much development, in fact.
Yes, because the relation between those two is that Kozuki runs his own gang of like other delinquent kids. He's clearly older than Kappei, at least like junior high, if not like start of high school. And Kappei is always butting heads with him. Basically, the idea of like it's all fun and games to him, and he wants to prove that he's the biggest dickest G in like in the entire fucking neighborhood. But that obviously leads to like more and more problems as like the episodes go on. Zambot 3 fights and like causes so much destruction, even though they beat the monster of the week. And like Kozuki definitely like hits a breaking point early on where he does some insane shit to try and like deal with what is clearly like his own grief and frustration over all the destruction and death that has been caused. Like, again, this is Tomino. Do not be surprised that he wrote a scene in which he takes one of the main characters, who is a girl, hostage at gunpoint.
Yeah,
this is real.
This is real. This actually happens. Nothing in this show is ever subtle or low-key. Everything is always at high intensity.
Yes. But like Kappei, where he eventually has to learn about like the importance of like what his actions have during this war, Kozuki also as well kind of comes to understand as it goes on that like blaming the Jin family and Zambot 3 doesn't really solve anything. Yeah, he at least has to do what is right in the moment within his abilities, which is just making sure that everyone survives. And and he actually helps out quite a lot in significant ways in like the latter half of the show, which, you know, like when it got to that point and I was seeing the obvious like growth that him and Kappei both had, that was very much when I finally kind of switched to the idea of like, okay, no, this is a genuine recommendation. This isn't just some like fucked up degenerate shit that we tell people to watch as a joke. This actually has like proper development and is leading towards like a satisfying resolution.
Yeah, I'll get more into it when we get into why we recommend. So I'll save it for now. Like my thoughts about how depraved the show is, but it's still worth watching. And it's still got bright moments. It's still got like moments of like hope, I guess is how I would say it.
That's we can at least get into like another like fucked up thing about this show, and that is Killer the Butcher.
Yeah. You know who's not
Butcher the Killer. I think I actually got those words mixed around. I think it's supposed to be Butcher the Killer. My mistake. But honestly, it wouldn't matter either way because it is like, what is the most evil sounding name that we could like come up with for a villain? While also having it be like the biggest fucking man-child in terms of behavior.
You know who's never going to get any moment of character development? It's Butcher the Killer. I know. Who would have thought that someone with this
Definitely
name
not.
would never get.
Yeah. You want to know what Butcher's always going to be doing when he's on screen? Sitting on his throne, cackling with his high-pitched laugh, playing some kind of like game as part of recreation as he gets an update from his generals in very obvious like Nazi-esque uniform garb. It's missing the armband, but whatever. They got the commissar hat. It fits. And usually having some sort of like slapstick weird-ass nonsense happening on this ship as he is just reveling in the fact that like he is killing the population of another planet. It's unhinged.
I like this show. I don't know if I like Butcher the Killer.
Honestly, same.
That's...
But it's all right because at least he is not the leader of Gaizok. He is the representation. The actual leader is named Gaizok, who is a very mysterious and enigmatic figure. You only get glimpses of Gaizok very, very briefly, and at least this is where Butcher's entire inclusion in the anime feels a bit more justified when he has to be in a one-on-one conversation with Gaizok. He is always like he is always very quivering in his presence because he is just getting chewed out for being an absolute fucking failure.
Yeah, which is one of the few things that makes him tolerable.
Yeah, just knowing that there is someone else out there that is like cutting him down a peg. And it makes sense because like they do at least like frame the shots of Gaizok when you do see the conversations with him as being like an actual like almost godlike terrifying being, like someone that is almost outside of reality.
Yeah.
Those are like the major characters you get. Obviously, we weren't going to cover every single member of the Jin family because that is just way too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I can at least give special mention to the grandma, Hazamon's wife, because someone has to be having fun during all this, damn it.
At least she's having a good time.
She's such a sweet old lady who just wants to help.
Yeah.
So why do we recommend?
Why do we recommend
the thing that we have been leading up to, constantly talking about all of this insane shit. And like, robot anime from the 70s is generally a rare recommendation, even from people that aren't us. I mean, like, God forbid you get them to even remember that Zambot 3 even existed. We do.
Yeah.
And there are multiple reasons, least of all being, the reputation of its director. Like, if you know who Tomino is, unlike Gundam, it's like, it would be like a natural inclination to want to check out some of his earlier works. And, as you brought up earlier before, it was the origin of his nickname, Em All Tomino. Like, just the amount of character deaths and cruelty towards the main cast is like, it's so absurd for a 1970s anime. Like, if it were a manga, it would totally make sense because content standards, you could get away with like a lot more as long as it was like you weren't just showing blatant sex and nudity. Like in that, but violence, sure, go ahead as long as the heroes are going to win at the end. But like you would think that this is because we were recommending it as a cruel joke, but despite the harsher tone, like, this is to Tomino's credit, he still remembered this is a super robot anime. There needs to be proper escalation and payoff to to a story that is about defending the Earth from invaders, and it has a proper, if not bittersweet, conclusion that won't leave you too depressed.
Yeah, so this is what I was getting at. It's like, this is not just misery porn. You do see the characters like grow and accept their responsibilities, and like they're still fighting for humanity even through all the suffering. And in the end, it's like, it is bittersweet, but it's not hopeless. There's still something at the end of there's a light at the end of the tunnel for all this. This isn't Zeta Gundam yet, where you don't have the oh god, we don't have an ending that makes you go, oh god, I need to lie down for a few hours yet.
Yeah, this isn't the end of Evangelion where just everyone at the studio was like, fuck it, you want an ending? Here, deal with it.
Yeah. And I think it's still worth it to go back and watch this. If you enjoy Gundam, or if you just if you want to see like a show from back in the day that's all still kind of influential in like just how it shaped a director, this is a good show for that. You get to see how where Tomino, like I keep saying, this is where all the building blocks of all his ideas come from. And you get to see where he will eventually build up on them, on the themes, on the characters. And it's just a good watch. Even with all the
eventually give birth to an entirely new subgenre of giant robots.
Yeah, that too.
It's also a very digestible show to watch because, while it did run for a short amount of time because of its lack of popularity, like a 23 episode anime, hell yeah, give that to me. In fact, a lot of its pacing when you get down to it, especially when you approach the latter half of the show, it's not too dissimilar from any major 24 to 26 episode anime you would have watched from the 90s and 2000s. If especially when you get to the real big finale, the climax of the show's major plot, it's not you could definitely start drawing lines connecting it to is oh yeah, I've seen this show do the same thing, or this other show do this other thing from it, and in terms of how it is paced out and where it ends up as far as just the escalation and the stakes involved, because you always got to raise the stakes when you are dealing with this kind of plot where it is an invasion by an enemy force, and sooner or later you got to take the fight back to them, and it's gonna be a heavy fight.
Yeah, I will just give a bit of a warning, but if you're going to watch the show, like we keep saying, keep in mind that it gets really heavy and really depressing. So we will have other shows to recommend that are more lighter in tone, that won't, I don't want to say ruin your day, but make you feel a little down, maybe.
That said, though, as far as watching this, because of the show's age, being close to 50 years old at this point, and prior to the international anime boom, there's no legal way to watch Zambot 3 outside of Japan. You got physical copies Blu-rays that you could get from there, but obviously that's not without any translations. Fortunately, it is also old enough to somehow avoid any copyright strikes on YouTube, so you could just watch the entire series subtitled on there.
It's just there, all of it for you to watch.
Yeah, just search Zambot 3 episodes and you'll find at least 2 separate playlists that all point to the exact same videos with the exact same subs. And being honest, I kind of wish that when I was watching through the series to completion the first time, I wish I had gone with that option instead, just because the copies that I had acquired from sailing the high seas, as we put it, had some kind of glitched out subtitle timings in weird spots. Subtitles would only show up for less than a second and then disappear for the duration of the dialogue they were supposed to translate. Ooh. So it was a bit awkward, but I'm pretty sure it was still the subtitles from the exact same group that translated them all those years ago. So it was just watch them on YouTube while they're still up there. And the best part is it's the entire episode per video. This isn't that YouTube classic where parts 1 and 2 are the 10-minute maximum, and then you have sub 4 minutes for the final third.
Yeah, you're not watching like an episode of Naruto in 3 parts anymore. We're way past that.
Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah, we're past that. Both that video format and past watching Naruto. Thank Christ.
Yes, at both of those things.
Oh, so we ready to get into our spoilers then?
Oh, yeah, well,
yeah. We've done enough alluding of some of the depressing shit that happens. Now we got to spend the last part of this episode talking about what that depressing stuff is in detail. If you've watched Zambot 3 before and you want to hear us break down our highlight episodes, or you are very depraved and just want to get all the info beforehand to satisfy, something in you, I don't know, then stick around. Otherwise, do watch Zambot 3. Be prepared for the ways it is going to challenge you, while still keeping in mind that it will earn its reputation in a good way by the end.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see you all in a bit then while we talk about the spoilers.
Zambot 3! Zambot 3! Go!
That song is insanely easy to karaoke.
We really should have mentioned that in the pre-spoiler phase, that the opening theme is catchy as hell, especially that chorus.
Oh yeah, and it's one nice thing about the opening is that it is one of the easiest karaoke songs you will ever sing in Japanese.
Yeah, you could just get away with zan 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 zan.
Yeah, that's the most of the song.
But we're not talking about the opening of Zambot 3 or the credits of Zambot 3. Well, I guess I can mention one thing about it, is that when I first saw the ending sequence of Zambot 3, the ending theme and credits, that slow pan up is oh, that's where No More Heroes 3 got its idea for the end of chapter credits.
Yeah, it is. And Suda would be the kind of guy who would reference Zambot 3.
I mean, that was the same game where Travis recommended to Bad Girl when she was in a state of mourning her dad, hey, you want something to cheer you up? Watch Space Runaway Ideon. You fucking psycho.
Oh, God.
Okay, so our actual episodes.
What's the actual episode?
We're talking about episodes 5 and 17, starting with episode 5, When the Ocean is Filled with Anger. This is still in the very early days of the Gaizok invasion, with enough battles having taken place that everyone in Kappei's hometown is having to fucking evacuate to refugee camps. That's fun.
Yeah, just refugee camps.
Have to board a ship that's gonna resupply at a port town that's nearby, and then they'll continue on to their destination that is as far away as possible from where the fights have been happening. Though, this is a pretty big deal. The townspeople are down to the luck. How can the heroes try to help? Well, how about having Zambot Ace bring a big crate of medical supplies for the refugees to use as they see fit? That's a nice gesture, honestly. I mean, even Kappei is being nice about it. Too bad Kozuki doesn't believe it, so he just drops an entire crane on it.
This is what we mean by Kozuki's actions are pretty extreme, because it's hey, that could have still helped people, but he hates Kappei that much right now.
Oh, yeah, chances are, it's even if Kappei was not involved, he would still have reason to hate Zambot 3 like everyone else, but knowing how much Kappei has been a thorn in his side, constantly, picking fights with his gang and whatnot, is yeah, I can absolutely see how, his hate is being exacerbated even more by the feeling of it being personal.
Yeah, and it's not helped by Kappei either.
Yeah, it's important to remember with this first half of the show, you can tell even as the viewer, as much as the people are down in their luck about the whole situation, is you can tell even from a glance that the public's blaming of the Jin family and for the Gaizok invading Earth is misguided. Blame the Gaizok, not Jin family. But, I mean, if you really want them to not do that, to be like that all the time, maybe Kappei should not be such a brat and respond in such a way with his giant robot that it, exacerbates those accusations. Like straight up throwing a punch at Kozuki only to fake him out by like stopping moments before it would have turned him into paste.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to endear you to folks there, Kappa. They already have a low opinion of you.
Yeah, so that attempt to like give them medical supplies obviously falls through. It doesn't stop the rest of the Jin family on board the King Beale from like still like putting together care packages of their own, not realizing like just how much more hate they have to throw their way. Mm-hmm. Butcher the Killer is like playing cards and just goofing around on his ship as always, which is continuing to be just a really big tonal whiplash the whole way through.
Yeah, he is such a big contrast from the show because I feel like for a show that's a 70s super robot anime, there's a lot of depth to it, to the characters and everything. There is no depth to Butcher. He's just a giant cartoon villain. He's just like an more insane Dr. Hill who just cackles and is a giant like man-child.
Yeah, this fat genie looking fuck.
Yeah.
He's just ridiculous. But alas, another Mecha Boost arrives, and after all the frustration the townspeople have had with the Jin family's fight up to this point, you'd expect things to go bad immediately as they are boarding the ship and Mecha Boost shows up. But the episode surprises you because, all the Zambot 3 machines arrive and actually repel the Mecha Boost to a isolated island off the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a shock, all things considered, that it's not happening in the city right away. But you're seeing more of like the kind of shit that happens, especially at this point in the show, with how like Kappei and his cousins tend to fight, where Kappei is very brash the whole time and is constantly like complaining about any time like his cousins try to get in on the fight and like steal any of like the fights from him. I mean, Uchida also teases him about it, so like he's guilty as much about it as well.
Yeah.
But at least I think Uchida has like a bit more of sense of maturity to him anyway, because it'll be like he has a better understanding of the mission ultimately than Kappei does, who probably sees it as a game. But I do respect Kappei's idea to transform into Zomboes and land on the Mecha Boost's back just to punch its face in. I do the same.
Also,
it's a pretty good shot.
It is a pretty good shot. Also, like, for all the depraved shit in the show, it gets really goofy sometimes with the expressions and comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it contrasts really badly or if it helps. I can't tell you.
I think if you just like actually take the time to sit down and like watch stuff from the 70s, you can like it shouldn't be too difficult to like endear yourself to kind of like the sensibilities of like what super robot anime of this type has to offer.
That's true.
Especially with the way that they go about like animating fights, where you would think like for everything that is always brought up about anime and the ways that it tries to like cut corners like to save money for animation, is that for all the cost saving measures, robot fights never failed to have like this insane sense of kineticism to them.
Oh yeah, they feel like actual fights that are still like going, even with all the reused attack animations.
Yeah, which this episode is definitely an excuse to use every single attack animation they have up to this point, because it's a classic scenario of a monster of the week where its main gimmick is its outer shell is entirely impervious to all our attacks. We got to keep trying every single attack we got until we get one that actually breaks through, even to the point where like, after having to basically beg Kappei to stop being a shit and actually combine to form Zambot 3. Even Zambot 3's attacks still aren't doing anything against this like 100 millimeter thick armor plating, I think they referred to it after they analyzed the data.
Yeah, I forgot how irritated Kappei was at the start of the show, because it's like, bro, you're fighting a monster. Just combine. Don't be such a brat about it. Your pride is not worth it.
Like, nothing gets worse than, like, I think it was, like, the third episode when, like, all three of them are getting pinned down by energy attacks and is, like, arguing with his older brother on the King Beale about like why the fuck should I be helping them and combine with them? I could fight them by myself. And is like, if you're not gonna listen to our orders, I'm just going to remove your ability to control Zambot 3. And does it, and then realizes his horrible mistake as his little brother is getting cooked alive.
Yeah.
Like, it is clear these are Yoshiyuki Tomino characters. They are always going to be written in a way that is like, he knows how to like write them in a way that explores like an extreme emotional range. But that extreme emotional range is the sort of thing where it's like, you know that you can never take them all the way seriously, because in a real life context, they would be deemed as like mentally unhealthy.
Oh, pretty much. And also, there's a lot of people talking at each other, but not to each other.
Yeah, a lot of that is like why the Kappei ends up being like indulging in like his bratty side even more, because it is so much like him having to receive orders and follow them through like a soldier, even though he doesn't like have the reality set in yet. That is like, he is fighting in a war. He is a child soldier. Soldiers follow orders.
But no, he's still treating us like a game, even after 5 episodes in.
And unfortunately, that game, while it was being kept safely away from all the refugees, they could have finished it off at sea once they finally figured out like its weak point and how to exploit it. But this is a Tomino anime, and we can't have that.
Oh, sure can't.
So they fly back to the town because the idea is that they need to have the Mecha Boost first transform into like its full flight mode to like chase after them. Because what they found with its weakness is that when it's changing between modes, there is a small but still significant like exposed spot in its armor where like its wings kind of like basically protrude and then or recede depending on the form it's in. So they try to lure it out to give chase until they can get it to like go through its transformation again, that they can expose its weak point. However, until then, I mean, the Mecha Boost is killed, but not before shooting a fireball, missing Zambot, and then destroying the supply port that the ship was heading towards. And then they manage, and when the Mecha Boost is like finally damaged, is like it gets shot in like the exposed port where the wing is coming out. The wing gets blown off and crashes into the ship, killing most of the refugees. And then, obviously, the Mecha Boost's body and Zambot 3 land in the water, creating a tidal wave that washes away the rest. Oh, God. Kill 'em all, Tomino!
Okay, it's a couple of things. Like, one, can you imagine watching this show as a little kid? Like, I know standards in Japan are very different for what children's entertainment is, but I would be fucking traumatized watching a show like this, and this is the 5th episode. Like, holy shit.
And I mean, I would wonder, like, how many written complaints from, like, stay-at-home wives basically wrote to Sunrise angrily about the TV that I used to babysit my kids showed this awful thing to them. How dare you?
How dare you showed a child probably dying? And also, like, you could tell this show is really thinking about what it means for 2 giant robots to fight in a city, because it's like, oh yeah, if you cut off like its wing, of course it's going to fall and crash somewhere. And where's it going to crash? It's going to crash on where they're fighting. You know, that, and of course, if they fall down, it's going to cause a tidal wave. Like, it's that level of thought they're putting into it.
Again, it's like when it comes to like prior Super Robot anime, like you'll see buildings and stuff get like destroyed over the course of a fight. But when you get to the next episode, it's like, it's important to remember, none of these acknowledge the fact that there was a fight in like a part of the town and that buildings that were damaged are currently back under construction.
Yeah.
Zambot 3 actually acknowledges that. Like, the city gets fucked up from like the first episode and it never gets better. Like this is why it is often seen as a very significant super robot anime of this decade, because it actually like addressed that very obvious like suspension of disbelief that everyone had basically agreed to since Mazinger.
Yeah. And it was like, no, the city does not get repaired after 1 episode. It is still destroyed. Buildings are gone. People are dead. That's just how it is.
That is war. That is what war is like. and really, like, even with all the tragedy that happens from, like, this freak chain reaction, the biggest loss felt here is obviously for Kozuki because, he wasn't just on the ship by himself. His family was with him as well. His mom and his little sister, which, by the way, in the previous episode, in fact, I think it was the episode right before this, you had a scene in which, his Kozuki's little sister was stranded on a lighthouse where the path to the mainland was destroyed, and Kappe in Zambot A's happened upon her and saved her, and it's that brief moment early on where you're oh, Kappe actually did something that you can consider heroic. Mm-hmm. There might be a chance. And then this episode comes along to completely dash that idea for 5 more episodes, if not more.
Yeah.
Because now, his family has been swept away in the chaos. And even knowing who the real enemy is, which is the Gaizok, the reason that this episode was chosen for discussion is that this is the moment that serves as a critical mass for the public's absolute fucking hatred for Zambot 3 after all of the destruction left in its wake.
And this is something we're going to see for every episode. It's going to echo through every episode after this, because you get to see how it affects the family now too.
Coming back from an attempt to give them care packages and being told we'd rather die than accept your help.
Yeah.
That's fucking scathing.
Jesus, yeah.
You feel bad for Kozuki, even though you know full well that his hatred has capped out and he is going to start doing some absolutely heinous things in the name of what he believes is the right thing to do in the wake of this tragedy. But also you still feel bad, even knowing full well that Kappe does not take well to criticism. You still feel kind of bad when even some of his closest childhood friends, the 2 girls that he doesn't spend time playing with, even though he calls them the ugly pair. Yeah. Because he likes to insult everyone he knows as an idea of endearment. And even they are if you want to help us, then just leave. You feel bad for both sides of this, even though one of those sides clearly hates the other. Mm-hmm. And you're you just know that someday they're going to understand that you should be mad at the Gaizok. And eventually they'll understand that that's the real enemy and they got to stand against it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, we're just blaming the easiest thing we can find to blame, because the Gaizok is an unknowable, monster to them. They don't understand them. They can understand the Jin family. They could point at them and send all their hatred to. It's just an easier target.
But again, like we said, as the show goes on, the rest of it does not stay at the level of depressing that episode 5 leaves us at.
No.
Instead, it goes to a different kind of depressing, because we're at least past the point where humanity is constantly blaming the Jin family for everything and realizing, oh no, Gaizok is actually the most evil motherfuckers ever, because it's time for episode 17, When the Star Twinkles, aka the true start of the human bomb subplot.
I think anybody who has watched Zambot 3 or knows about Zambot 3 is aware of this episode. And when they saw that we're talking about this show today, they definitely knew that, oh yeah, they're talking about the human bomb episode. Because how can we not?
Technically, I would say there are human bomb episodes.
There's episodes.
Because it's an entire plot. But this is the first one. Even though episode 16 technically introduces them first, they're not really the focus, as it kind of goes in a completely different direction. This one, however, they start focusing more on this is how Gaizok is actually seeing this plot through, and it is absolutely heinous.
Yeah,
because it starts by showing a mysterious quote camp releasing quote refugees, only for them to later explode.
I just want to say that when I was in that phase of my life during university, when I just went through a bunch of mecha shows, and Zambot 3 was one of them, this episode still haunts me to this day, especially the ending. Because it's it is hard to forget this episode.
It's hard to forget how this episode ends, or even the following episode, because it has a similar gut punch because of it being a named character you become familiar with.
Yeah.
But at least how this starts is that you at least get to see that in talking about how things clearly don't stay like they are in episode 5, you do find that Kozuki has absolutely mellowed out again on his hatred against the Jin family. Because, him and, like, members of his gang, they go to this refugee camp. They realize too late once they're brought inside that it is run by, that is very suspicious. Is most likely run by the Gaizok, which it is. And so he has one of his goons basically sneak out, like, basically hanging to the underside of a truck that is carrying refugees that are being released because they're human bombs.
Yeah.
And basically tell them, okay, get out of this camp, find where the King Beale is, get Kape and his family to help us. There's something wrong here. And, so that's what the good guys are doing, while Butcher is still being Butcher. It's not in this episode, but you did mention, like, probably, like, the most insane one of his, like, recreational goofball moments, where he is just, like, jamming out, like, at his own band and just, like, singing and about how much he loves killing humans and something. I still could not believe that was a real thing.
When I watched that, I was generally shaking my head and going, "What are we doing here? What are we doing?" Like, okay, like I said, I really like the show, but Butcher kind of sucks. Like, he is legitimately, I think, a black mark on this show, because it's like, I don't know if they had toned him down just a little, then he'd be fine. But he's just like this. I don't know if we're supposed to be laughing at him or be horrified or both.
I feel like his man-childish behavior is something that would have made sense if he was a villain in the next show that Tomino directed.
Yeah, it would make much more sense for that one.
Like swap him with one of the Meganoid commanders from Daitarn 3, and probably any one of those villains from Daitarn 3 would have been a better fit in Butcher's role.
Yeah, but that was my Butcher rant. I kind of hate him. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. I totally get you on that. Like, some of his shit gets real fucking annoying.
Yeah, it's like, can we just go back to what we were doing, please?
Yeah, so let's get to the Jin family finally getting news about this mysterious refugee camp after one of Kozuki's buddies gets there, and, like, they do a quick X-ray scan to make sure that he's not carrying anything bad, because already Grandpa has, like, the suspicion that, like, this camp must be where they're producing the human bombs, because there are still explosions happening all over Japan. But this time they're like, their times are all offset in random intervals, rather than how it was at episode 16, where it was just like, yeah, we've just rigged all of these human bombs in these random places to explode at the exact same time. And it's like, just, to me, it's like the idea of, like, needing to change the times in specific ways. It's like, this is some, like, Death Note shit, where Kira needs to change, like, the time at which he kills his victims just to keep everyone off his tail.
That's a good analogy, I feel, for this.
Yeah, although I don't think Butcher would really care so much about the secrecy of it at that point, because, like, he's such a fucking idiot.
He is. I don't think he cares.
But now we got an infiltration mission, and it's not just Kape that's going to the camp to uncover what's going on and rescue Kozuki. His grandma's coming along. She's just so happy to be involved in anything that's exciting at her old age. Mm-hmm. I mean, fuck it. You remember the episode where the politicians are, like, being used as target practice, and one of them was one of her old flames from when she was a young lad, from a young lass? And was like, she was so adamant about Kape saving him specifically.
I do remember that. Yeah, the grandma kind of owns.
Tragic as this episode ends, like, the best parts of it all, I feel, have to do with, like, with Action Grandma, really.
Yeah, Action Grandma is pretty great. She pulls some shit in this episode.
Oh yeah, and Chiyo Nishiki, the Jin family's dog, kind of comes along, but not very far, because, like, well, I don't know. Does it count as evil if the villains refuse to let our heroes take their dog into the fake refugee camp? Like, is that a bad thing, or is it good because it means the dog is being spared from whatever horrible shit's happening?
I feel like, on the one hand, it's like, okay, yeah, they're sparing the dog, but it also means they hate dogs, which automatically makes you evil in a lot of shows.
Yeah, I agree. They hate dogs. Fuck the guys out.
Fuck the guys out.
But at least Kape and Grandma get inside, and Grandma is super prepared for this entire mission. I mean, like, radio in the heel of her shoe, a shiv hidden in the loaf of bread. Like, girl thinks she's in a spy movie.
Yeah. She feels like she's from a different show, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, she provides levity for a heavy episode.
Because, like, once they're inside the camp, all locked away, there comes, like, a prison shower scene. Not that kind of prison shower scene, but it's close enough. Enough of this is like very much like a prisoner camp, really. Or, I mean, like, I feel like if Tomino really wanted to get extra edgy and dark with it, he would have tried to fit in a few concentration camp and analogies with it. But whatever. Like, everyone is forced to go outside and like shower in the rain. So I guess that's cruel enough. But at least Kape is able to like rendezvous with Kozuki and kind of like, you know, ask him about what's been going on at the camp, anything suspicious, and you get the first sign of tragedy to come, like a little hint of what's going to happen. Some of the refugees have a mysterious, like, star-shaped bruise on their back that they don't remember getting, but it doesn't hurt, so it's like, yeah, whatever. But no, like, even Kape, like, for as much as he's been a brat for so long and is starting to like take his like role in this battle more seriously, actually puts two and two together. Oh shit, they might be a human bomb.
Hey Tomino, I mean, I know you're not okay, but are you okay? What was going through your head when you came up with this episode? What were you thinking?
He's okay some of the time. He was definitely okay by 98. By the time 98 rolled around and started working on a new anime.
Yeah, he's okay now. He's in a much better place, but I want to know what was going through his head during this era.
Just thinking about like what is an effective way that we can make sure our villains are seen as truly evil and disliked by our viewers as intended. And just coming up with the most heinous shit that that feels right at home with like what Go Nagai would come up with in a manga. Like, okay,
yeah.
Here's another slight tangent, but it's still robot related. I have read the UFO Grendizer manga, and like, and just to kind of highlight how there are some things that Go Nagai gets up to in print that you never really see happen in like any of his anime adaptations of the era.
Right.
Is that there was a villain that I think was manga exclusive. I forget his name, but he was described as being such a heinous fucking individual that like one of his acts of villainy was capturing like a bunch of like hostages like on planet Fleet, like men, women, and children, hanging them from their ships, and then like once their demands, whatever demands they had were met, he was like, okay, demands are met, I will, quote, let them go. Cut to dropping them, literally letting them go as like human bodies rain from the sky and go splat on the ground.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That's what the Gaizok makes me think of.
You know what, that's yeah, I think that's about the same level. I guess just the fact that this was an anime, like you can get away with that in manga form, in print form, but we haven't seen this level of shit in an anime, for a Super Robot anime at least.
Yeah, action with and a lot of violence, that's whatever. Violence with a side of cruelty, that's where you're really pushing it, even by 70 standards. But the prison break happens. We knew that it had to get to this point eventually because we know this is not a refugee camp and these people are in danger. So using all the tools that Grandma snuck into the camp, Kape and Kozuki lead the charge. Kozuki and Grandma, you know, like go off in separate ways as a way to like kind of split up the Gaizok forces, you know, just to give all the other escapees like enough room to get out. Even Chionishiki, despite not being allowed in the camp, was still hanging around outside that he gets in on showing the Gaizok what for.
Yeah.
But Grandma still steals the show because she has another trick up her sleeve, and that is her straw hat being a smoke bomb.
That's right. She's got a straw hat smoke bomb.
Like she even feigns like falling to her knees, begging for her life, only just to toss it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this old gal continues to be a real hero.
Hey, Grandma rules. Thank you, Grandma, for being the hero we need.
Too bad it doesn't save everyone, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because the mecha boosts arrive, and it's two, specifically because one of them is to keep Zambot 3 busy, while the other is specifically designed It's basically got like vacuum tentacles that are picking up all the escaping refugees that had not yet been converted into human bombs, because Butcher is not going to let this operation be like destroyed just yet. He's like, every human he's got in his clutches, he's going to make sure they explode later. And well, although the Mega Boost does make an initial mistake where it grabs one of Kozuki's goons who did have the star-shaped mark on his back, and turns out, yes, that is the sign of a human bomb, and it explodes. And even like the Gaizok troops were like, "You idiot! Don't fucking do not fucking grab the bombs that we already made. We don't want to blow ourselves up."
And he was like, "Well, we don't know which one has the bomb or not," or something like that. It's like,
yeah, because everyone's clothed, and it's like, gee, maybe you should have made like a better fucking visual indicator, maybe a mark on the forehead.
Yeah.
But alas, the reality has fully set in that like people realize, okay, yeah, though, that is the mark of a human bomb. Everyone that was escaping and had not been converted is captured, including Kozuki. Like one of Kozuki's like gang members, Hamamoto, is still left behind and is also one of the human bombs. And this is where the tragedy comes to a head this episode. This is why like it sticks with us in like a very haunting way. It's so gut-wrenching. The surviving human bombs, knowing that like they're going to explode, not knowing when it will be, especially because the times for all of them are now offset at different intervals. And there are no records like on the King Beale that the Jin family could use as a way to try and remove the human bomb. So it's essentially a case of like, once you're marked, you're done.
Yeah.
And they have no choice but to go somewhere isolated just to blow up and not cause any more harm to people. And Hamamoto, being one of them, has to go along with it, trying to put up a brave face. He says, and I quote, "I'll go somewhere where there are no people. Just for this once, let me look cool." But unfortunately, he can't commit.
Yeah.
Fucker just breaks down. His final words are so painful, as like he just wants to see his parents one last time, is like running away. Like the other human bombs that are walking in solidarity have to like stop him. And like as he is crying and wailing to see his parents again, he blows up. And everyone sheds huge tears, knowing that it's just like they could not do anything to stop this. The Gaizok are truly evil. And in like a weird analogy to something that wasn't even around at this point in 77, like came out 2 years before Alien, and like we all remember the first time how like kind of like we thought it was horrifying, the idea of the alien life cycle, and just being like, if you got face hugged, you were going to have a chest burster inside you that is going to like eat its way out of you and kill you. That is like, yeah, you thought about, if you realized that was coming, and you would be mentally fucked up minutes before the end, like Hamamoto is here.
Yeah, it would be one thing if they just cut away, like if they ended the episode on all the people like walking away, but seeing the full breakdown, the explosion, the aftermath, it makes it so much more tragic and haunting. Like, oh yeah, it sucks. This sucks. Like the people, that is like a legit, a very human reaction to this. You're not going to take it like stoically. You're going to be crying for your life. And it's like, man.
Yeah, like again, with the alien analogy, if I learned that there was a chest burster inside me, at that point, I would probably like be like, suicide is the only option. I don't want to fucking go out like this.
Yeah. Oh god.
Oh, but it's rough, and the even more fucked up part is that this isn't even the only time that we see like a named character get like that we become familiar with tragically blow up, because that happens again in a different way in the very next episode, and it hits so much closer to home to Kappei, especially because it's one of the ugly pair.
Yeah, Tomino has like it's brutal. He's fucking just,
against kids, especially
against kids,
because there were definitely other episodes that were up for consideration. Like I know you mentioned the birthday episode, for Keika, and that was like nothing really tragic happens there. But I think when I watched it, I was like, Tomino must have. Like, I'm going to say that there's no good reason for this other than he thinks it is funny to make little girls cry.
Yeah, like that episode wasn't.
Because it's so mean-spirited for like half of it for no good reason against her.
Yeah, like that episode, the reason why I was thinking of that episode wasn't because it was like tragic or the most tragic or like action-packed episode, but it's the most like mean. It's like, look at this. This is what they're going through now. This is the
Yeah.
consequences of everything that's happening.
Like it's a pretty solid example of like what Tomino is like when he really has it out for a character just to make a point.
Pretty much. But
But even then, it's like, I mean, whatever. It's still in the spoiler section, and we
yeah.
might as well say it just for the people that have still not watched it and may not be convinced after all the tragedy we discussed that it doesn't get better by the end.
Mhm.
It does.
It does.
But that's even after so many sacrifices to where, like, the entire Jin family in, like, the final few episodes go into space to take the fights to Gaizok directly. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of the family members die, including Kappei's cousins in the process, even the dog.
Yeah.
But an important thing to realize, that even with all those extra deaths, it's like, by that point, the human bomb subplot is all wrapped up. Like, the people of Earth finally understand like how much of a threat the Gaizok is, especially like, you know, the military and governments, because like going all the way back to like that episode where the politicians were being used as target practice because they foolishly thought they could negotiate a peace treaty with Gaizok.
Yeah.
Like the one politician that like that grandma had a crush on in her younger days, because he was saved, he was actually able to use his influence to like basically set the path forward for people to stop hating on the Jin family and look towards like where the real enemy was and realize that they are here to save us. And, you know, like during that final battle, not a single Gaizok force gets back to Earth because they're the final like line of defense, the Earth behind their back. It's like that. It is that kind of classic final battle scenario for a super robot anime that you definitely have seen in other anime from decades after. It is basically the scenario of the final quarter of Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
You know? And by the end of it, it's like, I guess if anyone is curious what the ultimate deal with the Gaizok is, why they are so bent on destroying like the Earth just like they were Planet Beale. And the reason is entirely is because Gaizok is just an AI that has, by some bizarre warped twist of logic, decided that because humans are such bastards the majority of the time, that must mean they are bastards all of the time and therefore must be annihilated. And if you think saving them is the right thing to do, are they even going to recognize your good deeds after all you've done? That's pretty scathing words, considering at the very start of this anime, they were not appreciative of the Jin family and what they were doing.
Yeah.
And, like, when the battle is all done, and Kappei's basically, like, the only one from the front lines that is left, like, this is where the bittersweetness actually kind of comes in and, like, why the show actually earns, basically earns itself the right to be considered a good anime. Because by the end, Kappei is seen as a hero. It's just that the anime is realistic enough to highlight that someone that is in this kind of situation to be deemed a hero can't really get there without some amount of sacrifices. And there were a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
But Kappei actually got treated at the end as a hero, and it doubled those as proving the Gaizok wrong in the end. That it's like, no, these people aren't bastards. Not now, anyway.
There's still like hope for them, I guess is how I put it, even through all the sacrifices and terrible things that happened, I guess.
Yeah. It's a good anime. It is, you know, it is rough watching at times for people that may not be prepared for something so cartoonish looking as a 70s anime to go. But, I mean, whatever. If you really wanted something that was, like, much more uplifting, there was Daitarn 3, which came immediately after this.
Oh, yeah, that is way more uplifting and a way more uplifting show than this.
It's funny. Actually, after rewatching these two episodes again to take notes for, I did just start watching the first 4 episodes of Daitarn 3 because I was like, I want to see how this compares to what immediately came before just to get, like, a glimpse of Tomino when he is actually happy about something. And I think that first episode might be the most entertainingly absurd first episode of any anime from that decade.
Yeah, it's James Bond if he had a mecha instead.
Yeah, Banjo Haran is a fucking badass. It's like, God, no wonder he has been around in the Super Robot Wars series for like 3/4 of its fucking existence.
Yeah. And they give him like combination attacks with Zambot 3 because Sun and Moon, get it?
Yeah, especially because Daitarn's whole deal is that his killing blow is the Sun attack, in contrast to Zambot 3's Moon attack. But also, I kind of like the wholesome nature of the idea of that. Is like, man, if Zambot had Daitarn with them as well, like if they had Banjo Haran around, that would have been like a good role model for the kids. Maybe Kape would have like been much better. I guess that's the other thing that contributes to why Kape could be so obnoxious sometimes is that like you could easily see him fitting in more as the kid's sidekick in another anime.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good way to put it. He is the annoying kid sidekick if the sidekick was made the main character instead.
Yeah, if the kid's sidekick got promoted to piloting a robot, now what? But I mean, whatever. We have not gone all the way through Daitarn 3 anyway, and it's like, so it's not on our list to begin with. But I'm going to say, at least based on like the episodes that I have seen, like as of a few days ago, just to get an idea of like its tone and everything. Hey, if you like the idea of going back to an old show or cartoon that is from like half a century ago at this point, a little less, fuck it, why not watch something that revels being in being as corny as it is, like Daitarn 3?
Yeah. If you want something a little more lighthearted and something fun to watch, you can always just watch that. But you should watch Zambot 3. It's like, for everything we're saying, I think it's worth it.
Yes, definitely. And it will make any other Super Robot anime you watch after it a very nice palate cleanser.
Yeah. Like our next show, which we're not going to say, of course. We're going to leave it a surprise.
Well, we'll give enough of a hint as far as like what will be coming next week. But I mean, as always, thanks for being on to help rip this robot-sized Band-Aid off for us.
Well, I'm glad we got this over with.
Yep, reliving the pain and tragedy is over. Tune in next time for when we talk about a different Yoshiyuki Tomino anime that is actually uplifting. See you then.
See you, everyone.
輝け